One of the most important things you can do as a painter is keep your palette organized. In this case, we're going to work on the dead layer, and you can see that this is how the palette starts out after I've mixed all the colors. But first, let's go back in time. So essentially you start with a dab of black, all right, an equally sized dab of white, and that establishes your midtone. Now it's the midtone for the color, not necessarily the midtone of the painting. That's what I'm talking about. And just like Karate Kid, it's wax on, wax off. So I'm scraping it up, pushing it down, and smearing it together until it's completely even. As I go along, sometimes I will check it with the painting. And as a reminder, in the background here, you can see that the painting that I'm working on, it includes the charcoal sketch that I initially did, the first underpainting, and reference photo. And here I'm starting the dead layer with the lightest lights. The palette is already organized. I use one brush per tone. So I switched to, now I'm using a more mid-tone. So I'm using a different, also a large round brush. I believe this is my Lang Nickel, which I really like using. Now I'm switching over to one of my favorite brand of brushes, which is the Isabey. Again, it's about the width of my finger. It's a number 6, I believe. Again, one brush per tone. Yeah, sometimes I like to practice the stroke before I apply it to the painting, and in this case, I got a little close to the reference photo, so knocked it off. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, and now what I'm showing you is how easy it is when you're using this rectangular palette. They're designed and so that you can hold multiple brushes at a time, uh, and then you have your full palette in your, when you want to change a tone, you're ready to do so. You don't have to wait. You've got the brush, you've got the tones all laid out in your palette. There's no hesitation between your thought and what you want to do and what you're able to do on the painting. Now in the comments section, I will have a link to all the products that I use. They're listed in my Blick University course. So if you click that link, you'll be able to go and purchase the exact items that I use if you want to use the tonal realist method. That will basically give you everything you need to paint in exactly the way that I would recommend doing so. And there's the original model, as you can see in the corner of the door. Now here, it's kind of interesting. You can see me practicing the stroke on the reference photo before I actually do it on. All right, so I've done the lightest light, the mid-tone, and now I'm going to do the darkest dark. Now, it really doesn't matter what order. You can start with the darkest dark and do the mid-tone and then the light, or you can do the light, or you can do the mid-tone. It really doesn't matter. But you want to map out those three basic areas before you start blending between. And you can see in this case, I changed brushes when it gets contaminated, and I can't control the tone then. Yeah, and just a quick comment about the setup. You can see that I have a LED lamp over that and also a ready supply of paper towels. You can never have enough because removing what's wrong is as important Well, like right there, right? Just want to remove that. Yep, if it's wrong, take it off. All right, and so you can see I just keep changing that brushes. One tone, work the dark, work the dark. Nope, a little too much. So back it off. Again, if it's wrong, take it off. Okay, there's a brush for the darkest dark. Check it out with the reference. Oh no, that must be one of the lighter ones. Yeah, no, he's using the lighter. Smear it down a little. It's not quite right. There's the model looking for dinner. All right. Step back about 5 feet or so. Squint while you do this. Keep squinting. Make sure you have paint on your brush. I just kind of smear it around. See that? Different tone. Come back in. That's going to contaminate the brush, though. I wonder. I should wipe that off. See, I'm blending it in. I shouldn't be doing that. All right, step back, step back. All right, what's next? What problem needs to be solved? I'm going to start laying in the futon there that he's laying on. Now that's a raw umber mixed with white. So I've got those 3 tones already mixed out on my palette. But the darkest dark of that raw umber is different from the darkest dark that was made with the black and raw sienna. Uh, the other good thing about having an organized palette like this is, you know, you think, oh, well, I'm going to work on the dog, right? So you mix up all the colors for the dog, but you forget that, if you're going to do that, you really, in order to get the shapes right, you got to mix in all the colors for the background too. So you don't have to just mix the color of what you're going to have, but the colors of the object around it. Yeah, and you can see in this case, I was a little off. I needed to mix up something a little bit lighter, it looks like. All right, time to pick up. All those brushes are pretty much corrupted by now. I wasn't going to be able to get the light, lay down the lightest light of that futon um, with any of the brushes that I had. Mm-hmm. Squinting a lot. And see there, that's in the tonal realist method. Instead of drawing, you're basically adjusting the boundary between 2 tones constantly. So as you can see, I'm going back and forth between the darkest dark of the lower part of the model's paw and the background, which in this case is the futon that the subject is resting on. Yeah, so I'm being real careful about that line where between the 2 objects, which is basically just 2 different tones. Now, they're 2 different tones of a slightly different hue. In one case, it's white mixed with raw umber, and then in the other case, it's I think that's a transparent oxide red Earth Red, Transparent Earth Red by Gamblin. I might also mention that before I began this painting, I had refreshed the surface with the Galkid gel. That brought out a lot of the original color and also made the darks a little bit darker. So it helps you to adjust the final tone. It also created a barrier between the underpainting and the dead layer that I'm working on right now. So it's almost like having a sheet of glass between the two layers, and that will act um, to give it that sense of inner light of a reflection that you see in a lot of the old master painters, particularly the Dutch masters. And that Galkid gel is also on the Blick University link in the comment section, in the description below. And when the color's not right, you take it off. Right now I'm getting a little, you can see I was getting a little distracted by the sketch because I'm really referring mostly to the reference photo at this point. And then I'm also making adjustments in my own mind because I'm going to incorporate that streaming light from above, which I think is an important decorative element that I want to incorporate into the painting. You notice how I'm holding the brush? I don't hold the brush right up next to the bristles. I hold it back on the handle generally. You can see the look of consternation on my face. It's the working out of a puzzle. Believe me, I'm having the time of my life right now. Now come back with the mid-tone. Again, this is the dead layer, so it has white. I'm covering up a lot of layers where the tone was only established in the underpainting simply by exposing the support. And now I'm going to start to work on the upper part of this futon, which is the darkest dark. But also notice, I'm deviating from the reference photo right now because I'm incorporating some of the things that I've been observing visually in the environment around me and how light streams. Um, if you want to see more about that painting, I think I'll put a link in the description below as well for that when I have that discussion. But it's important to know that, the background is not just the background. It's not, you can't just take it out and replace it with something else. It's part of the overall design of the picture. It's part of what the subject is responding to and is nestled within. And I really wanted to feel it. And I have no problems being bold with my wiping and whatnot. If I ever mess something up, I can fix it. That's what it means to have confidence as a painter. And you could say I was pretty bold there. I moved the easel around quite a bit. And it's time to bring out the big brush. When I was a kid watching the Alexander method, I think he was sort of like a knockoff of Bob Ross. And he would say, bring out the big brush. And he just whipped that thing around and just kind of blended out. And, I know it's kind of cheesy, but there's actually a lot of value to that. in the sense that it brings little wisps of the paint from one part over to the other, kind of unifies it. It keeps it a little indistinct until you're ready to do those master strokes at the very end when you're in the finishing stage. Because when you're in the dead layer like we are now, we don't want to define things too much. That'll be for the finishing stage. We just want to make sure that the tonal relationships are exactly where we want it to be. It should be a little bit like a shower door, properly locating things, but nothing too sharp. And that's the end result that we're looking for. And sometimes you get tired of holding the palette. You know, yeah. Yeah, when the brush gets a little bit dirty, it picks up from the adjacent colors. So that board that I have in my easel, I've wiped that over. I use that to kind of clean the brush a little bit. It's also a great area to test a tone before you actually put it on the canvas. So if you have an area around your easel or a canvas that's already been, like an old painting that you really don't care about, it's really nice to be able to test a brush stroke and to test its tone and color off of your palette, off of your palette knife, off of your brush, and onto something so you can kind of really see what it looks like. Once you find an area where you think, there, I can just get it just right, I pick up that small brush. But that's only if I think that that's just the right size brush, the largest possible brush that I can pick to do that, the shape that perfectly defines that area. There we go. Just blend it out a little bit. Again, this is just the dead layer. We step back. We just want to make sure that the tonal relationships are correct, that the patches of tone and paint are arranged the way we want on the canvas. I'm never afraid to put my fingers in there. I don't work with toxic things generally. I think the worst thing I work with is the cadmium green. I don't work with lead anymore. So, and the solvents that I use. Yeah, there's my brushes, right? It takes a lot of brushes. And you step back and you look at it. You almost want to spend more time looking at it than actually painting. Picking up a fresh brush. And I believe I'm going to work on the cool area of the hair there. All right, we're going to skip ahead here a little bit. And you can see I'm holding a handful of brushes right there. And I'm starting to fuss with the area around the face, in part because I'm moving it just a little bit closer towards the finish stage, because if I fail in that area of depiction, then I don't think I'll have any credibility with the rest of the image. All right, I'm just going to zoom ahead here a little bit. You can see that it's getting a little warm here. When you paint, it can be kind of a physical activity. And obviously I've found that I need an additional tone or color. I think I'm working right now on mixing the upper part of the background. All right, and here I'm showing you that the Isabey brush, it starts to get a little splayed, but I still use a pretty large brush, like a number 6 or a number 8 in the dead layer phase generally, even on a small painting like this. And looks like I'm trying to adjust the color just a little bit. And now laying in the brightest of the bright. In this case, it's very bright, but I'm trying to capture that feeling of the morning sun, which in some cases is very bright, and also the sense in which my little baby's absorbing that. I don't know if you noticed, but in generally I'm kind of going back and forth against the grain of the ray of light. Again, this is in keeping with the idea of keeping the edges kind of fuzzy. I generally do recommend going against the grain of the stroke that you think you would normally take. So if you think, oh, well, this leaf goes horizontal, maybe do a vertical stroke instead. Or if something is a horizontal element, very rectilinear in that direction, you would do it in vertical strokes. Whatever's contrary to the grain. Again, now I'm laying in that secondary tone of the rays of light, and you can see how I'm doing that with the against the grain, so to speak. Yeah, and we can see that the model has reappeared to make sure that everything's being done according to plan. Again, I've used another big brush here, but in order not to carry the extremely white lights over into the dark area, I'm basically confining it to those portions first before I stream it down in further in the blending. And now I can do kind of like the rest of it, carry some of the colors across, unify the overall impression, and just soften it. Now there is a danger in doing this that you can turn the entire thing to mud, but in order to avoid doing that, you just have to be very delicate with your touch, very light. And then once you've blended it out, you can always go back and reassert some areas, which is what I'm doing right now. Now a word from our sponsor. Hi, my name is Chad Wooders, and I'm here to show you another great arthritis life hack. This time I'm showing you the small cap opener by Thixotropic. It's a flat piece of metal. It has an angled opening to accommodate multiple size caps and sharp teeth that will bite into the plastic of the cap. Here I'm going to demonstrate it using a tube of oil paint. As you can see, it's old, it's crusty, pretty nasty overall. The cap is stuck on there very tightly, and for somebody who would have to pinch and twist at the same time and has arthritis, it would be very difficult to open. In this case, the metal cap opener, you just press it onto the cap, hold it firmly, and rotate the tube. That loosens the cap, all right, so that now it's much easier to open normally. Thank you very much. Bye. And of course, the small cap opener is available in the link below in the description. It will take you directly to the Amazon website where that can be purchased. All right. Thank you. And if you want to see the completed painting, follow me on chadwooders.com.